Scott Bowers is the head of communication at the Jockey Club. I'll just pass over to you first of all, so you can give us an insight into why you're getting involved in this.
Hi everyone, you okay? Really straightforward. Just a little bit of background. British, horse racing is the second largest sport in Britain. 6 million people go a year. Football is obviously number one, but we're way out ahead of anything else. Rugby, cricket, all of that comes third, fourth, and so on. So we've got scale. We're a big sport. Interestingly, I would say that out of those 6 million, probably around 20% class themselves as racing fans, which means you've got 80% of the people that go racing who are, we have a relationship with in some capacity as racecourse owners, and yet they're there for a great day out. And all of our research, they have a great day. Very few people go racing and don't go away, having enjoyed themselves. So we've got a really good foundation. But what we don't do a particularly good job of at the moment, or we could do a better job of, is make a commitment that every single person that comes racing with us, or on Channel 4, our broadcast partner for terrestrial TV, or however they interact with racing, learns something about the sport and actually sees racing as an incredible sport, as opposed to just something that's a great experience, a great day out. The reason that's important to us is because, as the Jockey Club, you might not know who we are, everyone in this room, we're the largest commercial group in that sport. But we are governed by Royal Charter, so we're not the governing body. We own 15 racecourses and lots of other assets in racing, so all the ones you've heard of, like Aintree, the Grand National, Cheltenham, the Cheltenham Festival, Epsom, the Derby, Newmarket, and so on. And we're aggressively commercial as an organisation, but every single penny that we make in profit gets reinvested back into horse racing. Whether that's from a music night, not even necessarily to be racing, whether that's because we have a £25 million venue that we use for BMW to do a car launch, or whatever it is, conferences and events, all of that money will go back into facilities, will go back into investing in racing through prize money to keep the sport going, and so on and so on. So we're here for the long term. We've been around 263 years, and what we're looking at through this challenge is basically really open-minded around trying to work with innovators in the UK as part of an overall programme to help to explain racing better, so that people, in a non-patronising way, especially you've got to think about that 20% who are really passionate about the sport. They don't want to be preached to. We're not looking to dumb down the sport. It's a fantastic sport when you understand it. You've just got to get over that initial barrier, that initial level of understanding, and then we really see people enjoy it as a sport, not just a great day out. And we think that through this challenge and through a series of other initiatives that we're working on at the moment, that we can make some inroads on that. I don't think there's a silver bullet. I don't think there's whatever hopefully this throws up will not suddenly mean that everyone in the UK understands and loves horse racing. That's totally unrealistic. But actually, we think it can make some real inroads, along with 2 or 3 other things that we're working on at the moment. So it's really exciting to be part of this.
We've talked quite extensively about this challenge beforehand, and a lot of what we've discussed has gone into the challenge, the full guidance document. But I think there are some other things that we've talked about that come out when you have a conversation about it that are quite useful, and they're to do with how complex the sport can be for a newbie. So if you take a race card, for example, it has a whole load of information on it that can be quite complex. And then there's issues around the track. There's the going, good firm, all of that kind of thing. There's the colours that the jockeys wear. There's the blood stock. There's where the races fit into the calendar. What does it all mean? And once you understand that, you understand the sport a lot better. So are there some sort of ways that people who don't understand racing can get an understanding of what it is they maybe need to convey?
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I think we as a sport don't make it that easy for the completely new race goer. But I think in the last 3 years, for example, if you ask the question of the UK adult population 3 years ago, are you interested in racing? 1 in 10 would say yes. That's now 1 in 5. So we've done a good job. We've doubled the interest levels in racing in 3 years. But with that, we can still do a huge amount more to make it easier for people. At the end of the day, at a horse race, horses start at this point, they finish at this point. Whichever one came first won the race. It's not that difficult. But all the richness, all the complexity that Steve just talked about that goes into that. What we're not looking to do is dumb that down. We're not changing the word furlong. That is a distance. It's like tennis. Around Wimbledon, we heard a lot about, love and juice, and should we get rid of those? Is that anachronistic and all of that stuff? But for us, it's not about changing the sport, but we can communicate it a lot better. And I think through this challenge, if you guys can come up with ways to take some of the things, really break down the sport, really break down into simple, easy to understand levels through innovation. Be as wide as you like or as specific as you like. We haven't got a preconceived idea of exactly what we think the solution should be. It could be all-encompassing, or it could be in a very particular area of the sport that we think, if you focus on that, okay, it doesn't tackle this piece of it, but if you can really get this across, it will make some real inroads.
I'd like to bring in James Rutherford, the multi-platform commissioning editor at Channel 4 as well, just because there are two dimensions to this really. There's the live event itself when you go for a day at the races, and there's also the people who can watch on TV at home. Both of them have the key requirement of communicating exactly what horse racing is all about. And also just to remind you that the winning application could equally be applicable to other sports as well. That really what we're looking for is to help people to enhance their understanding and enjoyment of a sport. It could be a motorsport. You get to keep your IP, as we've said before. But the opportunity here is to focus on a specific sport. And if I can just ask you a little bit, James, about Channel 4's involvement in this and what potentially you might be looking for.
Sure. Well, first start with a little bit about Channel 4. We're quite similar to the TSB in the sense that we have a mandate from the government to stimulate the independent production sector. And that originally came out of the television production, but now it's spread across to our digital output as well. So it's a large part of our business. And we're a publisher, commissioning house, and it's very key that we work with our... Hello? Check. So it's important to us that we work as close as we can with all the independent companies to get the best out of them, because without them, we don't have a business, we don't have any content to take to the market and to sell advertising around. So that's why Channel 4 is a good fit for the TSB. And when it comes to horse racing, we're now the terrestrial partner, so we have bought the rights from the BBC for the Grand National, Ascot and the Epsom Derby, so you won't see any horse racing on terrestrial television apart from Channel 4. So as the owner of the sport now, it's crucially important to us to broaden that out to a wider audience. We want to keep the existing audience happy, and we want to deepen their engagement with the sport, and that's a key part of this challenge. But the second part really is taking out to that new audience, and as Scott was saying, it is quite a complex sport to get into. I mean, I've been involved with it for about 6 to 9 months since the end of the Paralympics, and I've gone on this massive learning curve, and I really enjoyed it. And now I sort of watch horse racing, and I'm sort of that next level through the the form and the data, and I'm really enjoying it now. Whereas previously, I'd go for a race day, I'd bet on a couple of favourites, and if I get some money, that's great. But now I'm really looking at the sport from a data point of view. And I think there's a key opportunity there in kind of exposing the data to an audience in a way that's clearer for them, so they can again get over that barrier to enjoying the sport.
Okay, sure. Can we take some questions actually? We ought to be whizzing through this. One thing we should point out, can I grab this? This isn't about gambling, so we're not looking for ways to enhance gambling or betting. This is purely about the appreciation of the sport.
Whilst it isn't about gambling, the sport is intrinsically about which horse is going to win. So if you're looking at data around form and kind of how that can expose how, if you said someone who's using a second screen app, this horse is more likely to win because of X, Y, and Z, that's not involved in gambling necessarily, and that's crucially important for the audience as well. So I wouldn't want that to be discounted entirely.
Great, thanks. More of a general question maybe. Will we have access to any demographic data, CRM data potentially as part of this proposal?
Very happy to provide demographic data. We've got some pretty good data as a sport. CRM data, worth saying that for the winning challenge, we have a customer database of 1 million people, which is, I think, pretty sizable. Now, it depends what the solution is and what level of access you have. I think we could certainly look at access. I don't know whether I know you wouldn't be given that data and own that data, which work out access to it, but it's in our interests to do that. But in terms, so I think it's a case of it's a conversation. In terms of demographics, we can provide some stuff to Steve and make that available if that's within the...
Yeah, I mean, for the purposes of this competition, we're looking for your idea. We're not looking for you to build it and submit it. So, I mean, if you have something already, that's great, let us know what it is. If you think there are ways you can use that data that are instrumental to your idea, great. The fact that it's available is important to know, but you don't need to get it in advance. We don't need to create a sort of a large database of assets for you to access before you submit your idea.
It sounds very much like you have, you have, let's say, a bank of data. Channel 4 must have accumulated quite a lot at this point, and particularly imagery and information, and you have background information on how the sport is conducted and how this goes out. Yep. I can't quite see that going out on a smartphone as being of particular interest to an audience when essentially it's a big screen entertainment. Would you see, let's just say that if data was massaged and represented in such a way that it was dynamically, visually exciting, of going back out through a Channel 4 outlet?
Well, certainly. I mean, if we can take the data around form, for example, where you've got a little list of numbers about where the horse is finished, and within that form you can see that horse might have finished fourth, but it was bumped during the race. So that's an awful lot of data to get through to understand that this horse all this has happened to it over the last 5 races, and now it's about to run in this one. What does it mean? If you're able to then translate that into something that says, this horse, if it doesn't, if something happens X, Y, and Z, it has got a very good chance of winning, and perhaps is undervalued in the market. If you can do that in a very clear, concise way to the audience so they can understand that without having to understand the form, brilliant. We're suddenly looking at something that can talk to the new audience and give them something that they don't necessarily understand at the moment, if that makes sense.
Would you, do you see this like second screen?
I think so. I mean, we are still looking at kind of things that work on the bigger screen alongside the TV, but that's still quite a way off, I think. I think second screen's a great way to kind of introduce it to the audience and allow them to engage with it without having effectively compromising the traditional televiewing experience. If you're talking about overlays and that sort of thing, certainly we're interested in stuff around smart TVs, but it's still quite a small section of the market, and it's still not quite caught fire. I'm sure there's going to be an idea one day that just cuts through into something that everyone's using it, and then it's just going to explode it into something that everyone has to be on. It's the platform that you need to get on. So, if we can find that idea here, then great, but, at the moment, I think it's going to be a second screen idea that's probably going to fluctuate.
Just to add one thing, which is more of a general point. I think the winning idea again could be using data in a big way, in the way we've just talked about. Equally, I think for us, I'm interested in people standing back and thinking, okay, how do you enjoy a sport? How do I enjoy an event and experience? And what is it that at the moment the horse racing I find difficult to understand about that? So it could be, what is riding? What is a good ride? You get to the end of a horse race, basically any jockey that's gone on a winner must have ridden it brilliantly. That's not necessarily the case. Or second could have been a fantastic ride. What are you looking for in the parade ring when the horses are going around? You've got the best horse races in the world. You might have £1 billion worth of talent in a ring going round. You don't even recognise it. It's not Cristiano Ronaldo. Actually, best horse in the world are worth more money than Cristiano Ronaldo is worth. But it's a case of that, breaking that down and understanding that. What makes Ronaldo an amazing player? What makes a horse an amazing horse? The engine, the lungs. What is it? Can we bring that out to people to get them to understand it? It could be that end of the spectrum in terms of understanding, or it could be really getting into. We're a very data-rich sport, as the guys have talked about. It could be using that heavily. So I don't want us to think of just specifically on data. It could be some really brutally simple things that we can use innovation to get out there.
There's a question over here.
Hi, is there any real-time data available at these events already, or would our idea have to incorporate the generation of some real-time data?
Well, I guess, like GPS data from the board.
Okay, so there are 3 types, if I can try to categorise data into 3 types around racing. So there's pre-race day data, which is pretty much your race cards, your declarations. So before the race day, you know which horses are running, you know which jockeys are on those horses, and so on. Then there is the race day data, which would be non-runners, jockey changes, but most interestingly, obviously, the results. So who's won and what happened during that race and so on. And then something we just categorise as other bracket, which could be on the day, but that would be, we've got speed data. So we've got chips in the saddle cloths of the horses for the best races. So we've got something called British Champion Series, which is the kind of, if you imagine the very, very, like the Premier League of football, it's the Premier League of flat racing. So the best horse in the world, they will be speed sensed through their race, and that data, at the moment it's something, it's not available out there, you can't just take it, we license it, so we have money from that, or we use it to help promote the sport. That exists, but it doesn't exist at every race day in Britain. There's thousands, there's thousands of races, so we don't have that data for every race. If it's a big race, like Royal Ascot, they have that data, a couple of other courses will have that data as a guarantee. And then, of course, as I said, there's the other data, which is our customer data. So we've got potential access to all of these individual people. So that's pretty much the database that we've got. And you've got different levels of access to that. If it was something, again, the final solution, if it was something that didn't undermine a huge revenue stream for us, then you definitely would be able to work together on that. If it was something that would lose, there's £10 million over here to help promote the sport, it probably wouldn't be something that we'd want to take forward. But the partnerships we had in it.
Yeah, talk about horse tracker.
Yeah, horse tracker, definitely.
Yeah. So we were quite keen to look into real-time data prior to when we first got involved with horse racing at the beginning of this year. So we produced an app called Horse Tracker, which allows you to take that real-time data into a second screen experience. And the real user case there was that the Grand National is a very chaotic race, and if you've got a sweepstake bet on or something, you might see the whole race and never see your horse because it's kind of fallen out at first, or it's just in the pack at the back. And so this app, and you can use it across Goodwood Festival if you like, which runs across the end of this month, until the 2nd of August. And essentially you're watching the race, it's on television, so you get the data in real time with the broadcast you're watching, because of the latency between the different TV platforms. And you can effectively see what positions it is in real time, the speed it's travelling, distance to the finish, the distance to the leader. And obviously you have a little map where it is on the course, you can get a gauge for where it is. And that went really well for us at the Grand National, and I thought that was a great use of real-time data. The lesson I took away from that is that you have a very small window of opportunity. The Grand National is the longest race in this country, and that lasts 10 to 12 minutes. And so that was kind of like a real massive, intense hit of like, is it going to work, is it not going to work? That, I would say, that's a great example, and you should use it across Goodwood if you want to have a look at using real-time data. It's very challenging and very complex, but certainly if you're keen to go down that route, I'd be more than happy to advise you on the pitfalls and processes you need to get through.
Question over there, just conscious of time.
Yeah, no, I'm
final question?
I'm concerned about time. Yeah, if we can just take that one more question from the guy here at the back.
And I think if there are other questions, maybe you can kind of email us if it hasn't, or hang around afterwards, and you can also, if you guys are still around, you can ask.
Mine was a follow-on question about real-time data. Specifically, would you be interested in proposals for additional real-time data that you're not currently collecting? So, at the moment you're collecting...
Would that be producing the data? Is there a proposal to produce a different type of real-time data?
Or use the hardware to collect it in the saddlebag or saddle cloth, or have very small cameras mounted discreetly, or
we've sort of looked at the camera room, it's quite challenging.
Or biometric data.
I would certainly be interested in if there's a possibility around piggybacking on what's existing and in place and kind of sanctioned already. If there's a way to piggyback on that and produce more stuff, I think that's pretty clever.
Definitely. Yeah. Keeping it brief, definitely, as you said, if there's ways that we can use data we're not using at the moment or collect it. Biometric, I wouldn't go down there because every horse in Britain is owned by, maybe people in this room, private enterprise like a speedboat, and a lot we'd have to have a contract with every single person in order to have access to that, so it would be impossible. But that is a barrier probably I can't overcome. But other ways to do it, technology that can just sit there, cameras possibly, but again that would be a discussion with the governing body. It's definitely not a no, but it's a case of how. If there are other things, then we're definitely open to it.
Okay.